Rapid Agents, it's Tristan, and I've got Michael Hellickson with me. Another random acts of coaching. There's nothing random about it. It's a beautiful thing. Today we're going to be talking about teams, new teams, building these new teams that are really hard to kind of gather and make it strong. And then once you're there, how to level up. Because as a team, I've been a team since 2009. It's a challenge to turn a profit. So that's what I want to talk to Michael about. Michael, thanks for joining us today, man. I know you're out in Arizona. You're awesome for taking some time to do this.
No, I really appreciate you having me on. You know, it's funny. We were talking just off air here real quick. Tristan and I were about how important it was to both of us to be here. And I was thinking for doing this personally with me. And I'm in Prescott. So in this place called Prescott, Arizona, if you've ever heard of it, it's out in the middle of nowhere. The internet here is okay. And so if I break up, I apologize. But there was no way. We've had this scheduled for a long time now. There was no way I was going to miss this particular webinar with Tristan.
Thanks,
and it just meant a lot to me, Tristan, that you took the time to be on here as well, because it's really
appreciate that, bro.
Else, so.
A lot of love today. I love this.
That's funny. We were talking about that too. For those, I was telling Tristan, I don't pray anymore to have God humble me, because I'm like, dude, I've been there. I don't want him to have to humble me. So I pray to have him keep me humble. Like that's a lot better than having him come down and say, okay, dude, you need a little humility. I'm going to give you a huge challenge so that now you're humble again.
Yes. No.
Oh my gosh. Well, this team stuff is a big deal, right? And we're talking specifically not just about, and whether you have a team or you're thinking about building a team, or even if you're just on a team, or if you just want to understand teams a little bit better, it's good to listen to this conversation, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about teams. Tristan and I were kind of jokingly talking about, how a lot of teams just aren't profitable right now. And it's funny because here we are in arguably the best economy, or the best real estate economy for real estate agents that we've seen in the 23 years I've been in business, or 26 actually now, I guess. But anyway, long story short, we're in this amazing environment where it's easier than ever to make money in real estate, and yet you still have teams out there that are not even breaking even, that are actually losing money. And what we call that is big hat, no cattle. Right?
Dude, I love that.
But it's true, right? You get these big teams, and it looks on the surface like they're really successful. But then, Tristan, you were saying some of these team leaders are making like $50,000 a year. Some of them, it's even worse, right? So now we're not trying to tell you not to build a team, and Tristan, I don't think you feel that way either. I think, in fact, just the opposite. I think that we feel very strongly about teams, and we feel very much that teams are not only the future of real estate. Teams are already what the driver is in real estate. That's already changing. Let me rephrase. It's changed the face of real estate already. Yeah. And so it's important that you embrace teams. The thing is, though, that you got to do it right, because it's so easy to do teams wrong and lose money, or just not make what you really should be making. So, and I'm kind of rambling on here and doing most of the talking, Tristan, because I know what you're doing here. I see you sharing it. I'm assuming you're sharing the feed on different groups and all that stuff. Don't forget to share it in the Club Wealth group too, unless Aubrey's already got that. But anyway, long story short, let's start with this. While Tristan's doing that, let me just talk to you about why teams. What are some of the advantages of teams? Why is it important to either be on a team or build a team? I'll start with systems. And we're going to talk about several of these things throughout today, but there's systems, technology, support, training, buying power, leads, marketing, and synergy. So I'll give you those again if you want to write these down.
Yes, please.
Systems, technology, support, training, buying power, right? So teams can buy things and get better discounts than a solo agent can. Leads and marketing. It's synergy, right? I mean, there's all these different things. So if we start with system, and we look at, what are the systems that teams have, and why are they different than the systems that agents have? Well, one, you've got lead generation systems, which goes without saying. It's a lot easier for a team to go out there and purchase the very best lead sources and develop systems around lead generation, whether it's purchase leads or other types of lead gen that are not as easy for a solo agent. Go ahead, Tristan. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you, man. I think the whole evolution of teams has allowed us to be able to leverage not only our money, but our time and just makes us a lot better.
Well, and now what you end up doing is you end up, instead of trading time for dollars, you end up trading ideas for dollars. And that's a pretty major transition, right? That's how you go from, as an example, you go from chasing business to attracting business. Like as a solo agent, I remember for me anyway, I pounded the phones like crazy, for expireds and FSBOs and cold calls and my sphere of influence. And it was all me trading time for dollars. And then over time, as I grew a team, we were able to take the combined efforts of the team, the dollars that we were able to bring in together as a team, and we were able to take those dollars and restructure those dollars, put them in places that brought all of us better opportunities. I always tell people it's like a farmer, right? You get these farmers out in the Midwest, and some guy, or anywhere in the country for that matter, and the farmer may or may not be able to afford the $1 million combine they need to harvest their wheat. So what do? They get together with other neighboring farmers and they buy a combine together, and they share that combine so that they can harvest their wheat. And the better the combine is, the more efficient the harvesting is, the more money each of them can make and all this. Teams are a lot like that, right? Except that instead of a combine, we're buying all of these systems together. We're buying the lead gen systems, the lead follow-up systems, the lead conversion systems. We're buying the recruiting and the onboarding systems. We're buying the team members that help us all out, the assistants, the transaction coordinators. All of these things, we together as a team are paying for these things now. Now, a lot of people say, oh, but then it's just the team leader getting rich. But that's not the case, right? I mean, Tristan, you know that.
Dude, no, there have been some years when I started that I felt like, wow, what did I do? I'm making like 6 times less than I was by myself, and more headache.
Yeah. And it's thankless. And then people they're a lot of times they're frustrated because they have to pay you anything. They don't even want to pay a split to the team. And then every time you turn around, they're coming to you asking you for, well, can't I get paid extra on this deal because I went to grammar school with this guy? Or, it's like, what, really? Like, bro, like that doesn't change our expenses on the team. And so, the good news is that, again, agents can get together and they can become a co-op of sorts in building a team. And it gives everybody on that team more leverage. It's not just you that, or the team leader that has the leverage. It's every single person on the team.
So tell me, Michael, what in starting a team, because I remember when I started in 2009, I didn't have a lot of examples. There were like no teams.
Yeah.
So what would be like some of the things that you would say, hey, look, you're starting a team. These are the 2 or 3 things you need to look for to make sure that you start off right.
Well, first of all, you got to ask yourself, what's your reason for starting a team? If you're thinking about starting a team, go back to Napoleon Hill, right? Begin with the end in mind. So I got to take a step back and I got to think about, well, what does this look like at the end of the day? If I'm building a team, what's my overall goal? Why do I want to build it? What is it going to look like in 10 years, 5 years, whatever? And then what's it going to take to get it there? And am I prepared for what it's going to take to get it there? Because Tristan, as you know, you're more likely to go backwards than you are forwards in the beginning, right?
Yep.
So your income will certainly go backwards. You're going to spend more time than ever before as you first start building your team. Now, for some people, that curve can be smaller than others, right? I mean, we've had people that within 9 to 12 months of building a team, they go from being the Lone Ranger to being a team of 25 and being completely out of production, making more than they ever have before. That's possible.
Yeah.
But it's not reality for most people, right? I mean, it's certainly possible, but you've got to understand that more often than not, you're going to have to work harder for less money in the short term. And it's usually short term. It's usually 1 to 2 years. But you're going to have to work a little bit harder and you're going to take a little bit less money in the short run. And it's funny because Cherie Benjamin, and you know Cherie really well. And Misty,
totally. She's awesome.
Oh, they're both amazing, right? I love those two. And Cherie will tell you, that the team eats first all the time, right? They got to eat first and the team leader eats last. So if you can accept that and if you can understand that, I think that, that's a starting point for creating a team. Then you've got to say, okay, what is the mechanical first step and what's the mechanical second step and all this? And that's going to depend. A lot of that depends on your market. A lot of that depends on dollars you have coming in. But at the end of the day, we want to, and it's funny, Keller Williams used to always say this, and I think they still do. but you want to lead with revenue, right? So what I don't want to do is I don't want to go out and hire a bunch of support staff and buy a bunch of leads and start with all that and then try and bring people onto my team. That's not going to work.
No.
Here's the reason why. I can hire support staff in 2 weeks that are phenomenal. It's very easy to add support staff. I can get leads instantly that are phenomenal. It's very easy to get leads. So what do I need to start with? I need to start with revenue generating members of the team. That's the key. When you start with someone that's not revenue generating, all of a sudden you increase your expenses and you have no revenue coming in for it. And you actually reduce your revenue because you have less time to spend now on going out and being in production because you actually also have to build the team. Does that make sense?
Totally, dude. I didn't even think about that angle. I was thinking more like lead with revenue, like, hey, look, if you're making this amount of money, don't spend this amount of money, right? So that you're actually left with something to function. But you're saying, look at it as a per agent type thing. Hey, are you bringing in revenue? Are you holding your end, right?
Here's a huge problem that people get into, right? Or here's a mistake I see a lot of young team leaders make, or people that are aspiring team leaders. What they do is they go out and they hire an assistant. And I'm not saying hire an assistant's bad. If you don't have an assistant, you are one, right? We always talk about that.
Yeah.
And I believe that. And so that being said, get your production to the point where you can hire an assistant, and it's necessary for you to hire an assistant to increase your production. So now you'll have that assistant on board. But before you ever hire anybody else, and before you start going out and buying a whole bunch of lead sources for agents, you got to get the agents on the team. But instead of what a lot of agents do is they go out and they hire one agent. They get one agent on their team. And that agent doesn't work out, and they wonder why their team failed. And they get frustrated with the whole team thing because they had one and that one didn't work out. And then they go get another one and that one didn't work out. And then they go get another. Dude, you're doing it all wrong, right? You got to go out. And if you're going to build a team, go get 4 people today. Go get 4 agents right now. None of this one person at a time stuff. First of all, it's just as easy to train 4 people at a time as it is to train 1 person at a time. Second of all, you got to have more than 1 pig at the trough. Now, what does that mean? So I used a long time ago, and this is people get offended by this analogy, but here's the thing: we're all pigs at some level, right? You know, we're all just another squirrel trying to get a net. So that said, if you're raising pigs and you have a pig at the trough, they'll eat the food and they'll eventually gain weight and you get bacon at some point. And if you're a vegetarian, I apologize. I'm not trying to offend any vegetarians, but it's a good analogy nonetheless. Now, when you have more than 1 pig at the same trough, what do? They compete.
Competing.
That's right. And now they both get fatter faster, which means you get bacon sooner, which is apparently a good thing, right? So the same thing is true for your team. If you hire 1 person on a team, of course they're going to fail. 9 times out of 10, they're going to fail. There's no synergy. There's no team. It's you and them. The chances of them being successful are dramatically lower than if you bring 4 people on the team. And here's the other reality. Tristan, if you bring 4 people onto your team today, how many of them do you think will be on your team in 90 days?
Realistically, 1 or 2, man.
Maybe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing is people expect, oh, I'm going to bring somebody on my team and we're going to be together forever. You're not married to them, guys, right? Listen, if you're not married to them, don't think you're going to be with them forever because it ain't going to happen. Right? Dude,
never.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There will be, I would say you're going to have about 10% at best. And this goes for coaching companies. It goes for real estate teams. It goes for pretty much any business on the planet. You're going to have 10% of your audience, whether it's your clients or your team members, that are going to be what we like to call raving fans, right? Yeah. And that 10% is likely to be with you for their career, and that's fantastic. And you really have to take extra special care of that 10%. But the other 90%, it's not going to be the case for them, right? Because people by nature are very transient.
So I'm a new agent, new team. I just hired 4 people. Let's just say that. And I have this expectation now, okay, I'm going to lose most of the people I hire. So I'll probably end up with very few of the original people I have. How do I then level up and maintain that synergy as I'm losing agents?
So first of all, we have to get over ourselves and realize we're not as great as we think we are, right? Like we're all just another squirrel trying to get it up. Yeah. So when we bring these people on our team, we got to treat them with respect. We got to treat them with care. And we have to understand this is the problem that people start off with. They say, well, I don't want to train somebody to go be my competition.
Mm-hmm.
That's the absolute backwards way to look at this. If you don't train them at such a level that they can become your competition, they're going to get dissatisfied with your team, and then they're going to go become your competition. So no matter what you do, you have to pour yourself into every single person on your team. That is mission critical. And you just do the very best you can to bring as much value as you can at every turn, and you cross your fingers and you hope that they stick with you long term. Now, the reality is when you build the right culture on your team, chances are they have a better chance of staying.
Yeah.
If your culture is wrong, they'll bounce. And that's the thing. They'll get attracted by money, but culture will cause them to leave every time.
You know what? That's a really good point that you bring up, because the culture thing, I think that's what holds the big part of the team together. Those people that really are looking for something to belong to. In regards to people leaving, I learned from, Steve De La Viega from Fidelity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he told me, he goes, Tristan, like, just think that everyone you hire is going to leave.
Yeah.
So make sure at the very beginning, you let them know when you leave, this is the process that you need to take to leave. Because if you don't, you're going to burn your bridge with me. And so I thought, oh, okay, cool. You're actually setting the expectation. So when they do leave, you're like, they come up to you and they tell you, and it's a good thing. It's not necessarily a terrible thing.
That's right.
So I thought that was cool.
Well, and there's a lot of reasons why people leave, right? It's not necessarily because they're dissatisfied with the team or the company. It's not necessarily because it's not a good fit. There could be a million other reasons why someone might leave your team, and that's okay. Even if you have to ask someone to leave your team, that's okay, right? And you can do it with dignity. The key is make sure that everybody, that whatever separation happens, it happens with dignity. And that, Tristan, to your point, comes down to expectations going into that relationship.
I agree. So, dude, I'm a new team, newer team. How do I get leads? How do I maintain my agents happy? Is it about leads, or is it about showing them how to get leads?
Well, first of all, if it's about leads, you've got a real problem, right? I mean, if the culture on your team and the value proposition of your team is about leads, there's no value proposition, because everybody can get them leads. So that's really easy. So where does it start? Well, it starts with culture, right? I want to make sure I've got a culture of winners on my team. We were talking to Kyle Whistle today, Kyle, on Club Wealth TV. And one of the things we talked about is that eagles don't flock with turkeys, right? So if I have a bunch of eagles on my team already, guess what? More people are going to be attracted to those eagles. That's one of the reasons why it's really helpful when you're building a team if you've already had some success as an individual, because people are attracted to that success. Success begets more success. If you haven't had any success, it's going to be a lot harder to build a team than it would be if you have had some success. So in terms of lead generation, though, there's a million ways to generate leads. First and foremost, anybody who's on a team, not the team leader, but if I'm a member of a team, I need to expect that I'm going to be doing a lot of lead generation myself and not just relying on the team for leads. Yep. If I'm 100% reliant on the team for leads, both the team and I have a problem. So I would caution against that. And it's interesting because so often now we see agents have lost the skills of not only lead generation, but now we're starting to lose the skill of lead follow-up, as you see more and more third-party companies coming into the real estate industry saying, hey, we're going to do the lead follow-up for you. Yeah. Agents are getting lazier and lazier and wanting to do less and less, and they're paying more and more. And all of that comes out of your bottom line. So the commission dollars the agents earn are getting smaller and smaller and smaller every single day. So that being said, I mean, without going into every specific lead source, you've got to develop all three of those skills. Go ahead.
So question from Justin. What's the revenue multiple you should expect from each member?
Oh, that's a great question, Justin. So first and foremost, I want to see that every single agent in my team or on our team, and by the way, it's never my team, it's our team, right? So yeah. But I want to see that each and every agent on the team is doing a minimum of 2 transactions a month. And if they're not doing 2 transactions a month, are they really serious about their career? And that's possible in San Diego, and it's possible in Bentonville, Arkansas. It doesn't matter where you are. You can do a couple of transactions a month if you're serious about this business. And so what is the multiplier I look for on an agent? Well, at the very least, I mean, you figure I'm getting it really comes down to your split, right? So if I have an agent on my team, I'm looking at my gross splits. The most I'm paying is 50-50 because it's getting more and more and more expensive to do the lead follow-up and the systems and the support and all the things that have to be there for these agents to be successful.
Yeah.
So I think it's less about what's the multiplier for that agent, more about what do the splits end up being. And it's interesting because I know teams around the country, like, Lance Loken and a lot of these teams out there, where like a listing agent, for example, makes as little as 10% on a transaction. It's pretty common. We see a lot of teams right now. Gabe is one of them. Gabe Cordova, our buddy over at Firepoint. Gabe literally he was doing 800 transactions a year with his team, and he had people fighting to be in a listing agent position that only paid 25%.
Wow.
Why are they paying 25 or 30% and begging to, I'm sorry, he was at 30%. But why are they begging to get, or waiting in line literally to get into that position where they can earn that 30%? Well, because they know that when they're in that position, all they do is go on listing appointments, take the listing, hand it off to somebody else does the rest of the job. So they can do a whole lot more business. They can do a lot more transactions than they could if they had to do all of these things themselves. So at the end of the year, they make a lot more money. So it becomes less to the agent. It becomes less about what's my split and more about what do I really make at the end of the year? And at the end of the day, what are my dollars per hour?
All right. Quick question. What's the starting split for a team member?
Depends on how you're starting your team off. So if a lot of agents now, or a lot of teams now are starting them off as an ISA on their team. And I love that model. I think it's a fantastic model where everybody that comes into the team is an ISA for the first, 2 to 6 months usually. Excuse me. Which means they have to pound the phones. And if you do a good job there, then you've earned the position to be an agent. But generally speaking, you're going to see splits run right around 50% as a starting split for most people. We see some teams that start lower. My team, when I was selling real estate back in the day in Seattle, I started off at a 40% split. So each month they would get 40% on their first 2 transactions. On transactions 3 and 4, they would get 45%. And on transactions 4 and 5, 5 and higher, they would get 50%. Now, there are other people that use other models similar to that, but essentially what you do is you incentivize people to do more transactions per month, and they get a higher split because of it.
So now you're a successful team or growing, you've been 2, 3, 4 years into this. How do you level up from there? Because I find that a lot of agents and their teams, they're just trying to level up, but they just never hit that momentum. What are some tips that you'd say, hey, maybe you guys should try something different or do this as a more veteran team?
People don't believe me half the time when I tell them this. And I cannot begin to say this enough, Tristan. The single biggest problem that teams have, it's not lead generation. The single biggest challenge teams have, not just in leveling up, but even in staying where they are, single biggest challenge and the single most important thing the team leader needs to make sure is happening on a daily basis is not lead generation at that point. It's recruiting. And if you're not recruiting heavily on a daily basis, then guess what? Your team's going to struggle over time. So that's the transition, right? As a solo agent, there's 3 things I got to do. 3 things I got to spend 90% of my time on as a solo agent. Lead gen, lead follow-up, lead conversion. As a team leader, especially once I'm able to transition out of production, and that's a very difficult transition, but once I transition out of production as a team leader, it's recruiting follow-up, and recruiting conversion.
All right. So I'm a veteran team. How many, since we're not focusing on leads as our value proposition, because I agree with you, it's the wrong way you get to go. It's like a hole. You'll never get out of it.
Right.
We're focusing on more of just the experience and culture and what we can do for you as a person and agent long-term, right? Mm-hmm. How many agents would you say, you should recruit this many a year? What is there a number that you say, or what do you think?
I think and that's a tricky question, but it's a good one. It's a good question, and I get it a lot. And I'll tell you that a well built out team, right? Like a team that's got really good longevity, that's going to be solid, that's got the right people in the right places, that's capable of doing good volume, and where the team leader is very capable of netting $1 million a year, which I think every team leader should be able to net $1 million a year. Mm-hmm. I think it's reasonable, and I think that a good team leader who's running their business properly, that should be expected. Mm-hmm. So what does that look like? Essentially, that looks like I've got 20 buyer's agents, somewhere between 16 and 20 buyer's agents, and 4 listing agents on the team.
Got it. And you still think that most teams should be split into having like a listing department and a buyer department, right?
I will tell you, and this is such a big debate in real estate. I love this one, though.
No, that's why I asked you.
I know. Way to go. Way to stir the pot there, Tristan. I love it. But it's so true, right? Like everybody thinks, oh, I'm the best at both, right? I'm great with buyers and I'm great with sellers. And I got news for you. No, you're not, right? Like
That's
you
true.
think you are, but nobody's great at both. There are people that are rock star listing agents and there are people that are rock star buyers agents, and they're two totally different personality types. And when you get really good at all the scripting and the types of follow-up and the way that each of these things needs to happen, and you're able to focus on just that one thing, you really do become the best at that one thing. But trying to do it any other way is like standing with one foot on either side of a picket fence, right? You just get rubbed raw in the middle. Not a good thing. So, that being said, what does that look like? Who makes a good listing agent? Who makes a good buyer's agent? A listing, I could have the same couple, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? They're selling their house. And for a listing agent, they want a snarly pit bull with an attitude, right? They want somebody that's going to come in there, kick the front door down, punch them in the face, and make them sign. They want to know that you're on your game and that you're not going to take any prisoners and you're going to get them every last dime out of that house. That same couple, when they go to buy a house, they don't want that guy. They can't. That's not the right person to go out and show them houses. They want somebody who's going to lead them, guide them, nurture them, be patient with them, walk them through the process every step of the way without pressuring them in any way. Same client, two totally different needs, two entirely different personality types that are necessary to meet those needs.
I love that, dude. Okay, question from, Pavel. Pavel Stepanov.
Hey, what's up, Pavel?
What's up, Pavel? He says, we have a 50-50 on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the team deals, like personal ones? He says he has it at an 80-20 on those personal deals.
Yeah.
Friends, family, SOI. What do you think of that? Is that fair?
I guess the real question, Pablo, is would you rather gouge your own eyes out now or later?
He's going to say later.
So essentially what you're doing is you're setting you and your team member up for failure. Eventually that person will probably not be on your team. And here's why, because you're going to have to fight with them over the next 3, 5, however many years. You're going to have a constant battle with them until one of you finally calls it quits on, was that a personal deal? Was that a team deal? Oh, and what about when the team generates a lead and down the road that lead refers somebody or does business with us again? Is that the agent's referral? Is that the team's referral? Let me just tell you, here's how I do it. I keep it super simple. Every deal is treated the same. Every transaction is the same split regardless. I don't care if you're on a 50-50 or 40 or whatever. It doesn't matter what the split that is that you're doing with your team. It's the same on every transaction. It will save you tons of headache. It'll save lots of heartache between you and those agents. And it will remove that distraction from your team, which is definitely divisive and devastating to your culture if you're not careful.
Dude, you hit it right there. Pavel, I agree with Michael here, because it comes down to it starts messing up with the culture and the synergy. Yep. Forget about everything else, whether it's fair or not. It's the culture piece. It's like, well, why are they getting 80-20? Or, hey, look, this, dude, it's just have it straight out. If it's going to be 50-50, 50-50 on everything.
Yep, 100% agree. And here's the thing. Either you're on the team or you're not. Right. And the reality is the team is bringing you a lot more business than you're bringing the team. If you're if you're in the right environment and things are going the way they generally go on a team, the team is providing you with a lot more business than you ever bring to the team. So that being said, either you're on the team or you're not. And if you're not fully on the team, you're a distraction to those who are.
I agree. All right. Wrapping up here. We got like 2 more minutes, Michael.
Okay.
This was the perfect topic for you, by the way. Dude, you hit this right. I'm getting feedback from everybody and our admins saying that you're doing an amazing job. So good job.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that.
I think for those of you who don't know Michael Hellickson out there, I think it's because your Club Wealth has, I think, the largest coaching part for teams, right? I think you guys have.
According to sources that I have a lot of faith in, we are apparently now the number 1 coaching company in the team space by a factor of 7. So we're literally 7 times larger than number 2. What's really, I think, though, more impressive than that is who the coaches are. Every single one of our coaches runs a team. Every single one of our coaches is a successful team leader, and they all produce at a higher level than the people they coach. So if you're doing 100 transactions a year, your coach does 200 transactions a year and so forth. And that's pretty awesome. And they're just good people, and you know a ton of our coaches.
Yeah.
In fact, you know just
I
about
think,
all.
dude, everybody I know, they're just good-hearted people. They really want to help. Michael, where do we go to check out your coaching?
Just go to clubwealth.com. It's clubwealth.com. There's tons of free stuff on there. Go to the blog, which is, clubwealth.com/blog, and check out, we have tons of free videos, and we don't do like a short little thing. Like if we're going to talk about a topic, we'll do an hour-long video on exactly how to do it, and we'll give you a free download. There's all kinds of free stuff on the website. And honestly, it's, Tristan, and I'm going to give you credit for this. I don't know that you were the first person to say it this way, but you were certainly one of the biggest influencers in my life when it came to this. I've heard you say over and over and over and over again, come from contribution, come from contribution, come from contribution. And let me tell you, man, as we've gone further and further and further down that road and really truly embraced that, it's not only changed how we share information, because we give more away for free than a lot of people charge people for.
Guys do a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's good stuff, right? And we don't hold back. We give good stuff away. But it's also changed who we are. Like, I really feel like it's had an impact on who I am as a person, to really start to understand that more at a deeper level. So anyway, thank you for that.
That's good, dude. Last question, and I think it's a good question. That's why I had to ask this.
Okay.
When you it's from Sherilyn Vaz. When you first started a team, did you take vacation time, or were you scared?
Yes and yes, and I should say no, yes and yes. So, first of all, yes, I was scared, and I think everybody is. And that being said, did I take vacation time? Yes. Was I married to my phone on that vacation time in the beginning? Yes. And that's not what we practice. It's not what we preach right now. It's not what we want you to do. We're real believers that no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. And yet I knew full well, as you hopefully do now know full well, that in the beginning, year to 2 years, especially of building a team, you're going to work a lot harder for a lot less money.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. And it's worth it for so many reasons. You're going to help so many people that you couldn't have helped otherwise. You're going to change lives. You're going to help agents make a better living. You're going to help them spend more time with their family. You're then going to enable yourself to have a life and be able to spend more time with your family through doing this. You just have to pay the price in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And you do, as a team leader and team members, you start seeing that you're getting a lot more of that life back to spend with your family, which I thought for me was the key. So,
well, I'll give you an example. You know Mike Novak, right?
Yeah, I know Mike.
Mike's a perfect example. Here's a guy, he's only been in the real estate business for 2 years. First thing he does is he hires us as a coach. In his first 2 years, in his first year, worked like a dog. This guy's working hard. We work hard with him to start freeing up 1 day a week. So he starts to get 1 day a week where he doesn't touch his phone. That day grows. Now it's a day and an evening. Now it's 2 days and an evening. And then you see what I'm saying? And this is a guy that in his second year in real estate will net over $1 million net, right? But what he understood going into it was he had to work super duper hard, but he started taking chunks of time where he could, and he started making those family only time, and game changer.
Dude, agreed.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. This one was really, really good.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me, Tristan.
Have a great day, man. Have fun in Arizona.
Right on. Sounds good. See you later, everybody.
All right.